Yeah. So I originally grew up in Georgia, and I came to Columbia as a grad student at University of South Carolina. And so I think that has been like over a decade that I've been here in Columbia. And Columbia is just a great city, and it was one of those things that whenever I first came to grad school here, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go to grad school and then like go off and do something else. But Columbia is one of those cities that, like, as I've been here, it's continued to evolve, and so many cool things are happening here that I didn't want to leave. Once I got my degree, I wanted to stay here. So it's just been a great town to see like all the new things that are happening. Yeah, well, I think things like the what's happening in the Vista. So like now the Vista seems like set and there are all these wonderful restaurants, but that wasn't necessarily the case. There were fewer things happening and people just kept on creating and building things. Especially on Main Street is another good example. And I think even in the past 2 years, you might have been able to see all the changes that are happening there. Lots of new festivals that are coming to Columbia, and more kind of cultural opportunities that I didn't, or maybe I wasn't really aware of whenever I first moved here. And especially like a lot of new nonprofit life that is happening here. So in my particular example, it was important to me. I was always interested in women's issues and wanted to work for women's rights. And I was talking to someone from Furman yesterday that was saying all these people get trained in nonprofit work and then like they head up to DC. And like the importance of like this work is especially needed in the South, and so finding opportunities, and I do think that's an area for growth in our state and in Columbia, that there are like more opportunities for educated young people to stay here and to take those jobs. Yeah, I definitely think of, we were joking before about Atlanta Falcons, and that's my home team, but I definitely think of Columbia as my home now. So this is the place after, I graduated here, I got my first, real job here. I built a family here. I'm invested in the educational system here now, that it really has become, I feel like this is home now. And that is such a challenging, it's a challenging question because, being a woman is more than just the biology of something. It's socially constructed. There are all sorts of intersectional identities that go into that. And I mean, I am thankful to be living in a time where people are starting to think of women in different ways, and that the definition of woman is opening up and what women can do. There were a lot of interesting kind of gender-based commercials during the Super Bowl about kind of challenging these stereotypes that we have about women. And so I think that being a woman can mean so many different things, and like opening up that definition and, challenging women to like make it what you want it to be. Being a woman could be so many different things, and so that's an exciting time to be, that people are starting to have these conversations in a more popular context. Yeah, I think so. And I think I live a life that is not, the traditional standards of the way that women are supposed to live their life, and the way that what women are supposed to say and behave and that kind of thing. So, yeah, and it's interesting because I'm aware of these things, and a lot of the time I'm not trying to like make a particular statement on things, and it's only through people's reactions that I see like, oh, I wasn't trying to be provocative whenever I'm living my life in a certain way, but you can tell that people don't quite know what to do, oftentimes what to do with a woman who is having a candid conversation and speaking her mind, and not trying to be, a lot of the times it's perceived by people as being rude if you have an opinion. Mm-hmm. And express that, I try to express myself in a respectful way, but just even the act sometimes of, I don't necessarily agree with your perspective, and here's what I think of instead, is seen as, provocative and controversial, and not really what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be polite and smile, and that is another like, whoa, how am I supposed to answer this question? I think that success, this is another one of those things that everyone has to define for themselves, and what equals success for you. And I think knowing what you, like blazing your own path and knowing what you want to get out of life, and knowing that, for me, like living a life that I feel like the work that I do is important to my community and to my state, to my region, to my nation, and knowing that I can live my life in a particular way, and that these things are seamless, that I don't have to, a lot of times people talk about like the work-life balance, but like seeing those things as part of like a holistic one thing, like the way that you live your life is the way that you live your life, and you don't just like shut on and off from work to your personal life. I mean, I have to say, honestly, so I came into this work, I was a graduate student, and I was finishing up my PhD in rhetoric and composition, and I saw a part-time opening for the New Morning Foundation. They needed help with social media communication. And so, I was on path to do, more kind of traditional academic job, and so I was finishing up my dissertation, teaching some classes, but then I was like, oh, that would be so much fun. Like, this was kind of like one of those like this feeds my soul kind of work. So, I'll do a couple of hours a week and like see how this works out. And then I totally fell in love with the position and like doing this nonprofit work, and it felt really meaningful to me. And the woman, I guess, who like really took that chance on me was Bonnie Adams-Cap. And so she's the CEO of New Morning Foundation, or I'm sorry, Executive Director of New Morning Foundation. And she was the woman in my life who really just gave me that, like she took a risk on someone who has this academic experience, but she saw something there and gave me my first, like real job of the kind of nonprofit work that I'm still doing today. So she would probably be the biggest. Yeah. So W.R.E.N is the Women's Rights and Empowerment Network, and we are a state-based organization. So our office is based in Columbia, but we serve all of South Carolina, and we do issue education and events on women's rights. We do advocacy trainings. So for a lot of people, the last time you thought about civic engagement was either in your 10th grade civics class, or the last time that you saw Schoolhouse Rock. That's the last time it's like, oh, okay, right, that's how that works. And so we do a lot of work there to like remind people of how the whole legislative process works and how you can become involved. So that's one kind of the issue education component work that we do. And then there's also kind of the advocacy and lobbying work that we do. So we let people know when bills are introduced at the State House that would impact women's rights, and then we give them a way to connect with their legislator so that they can let their voices be heard. Yes, so I work on kind of the external communications portion of the work that we do. So any kind of trainings that we have, any emails that we're letting people know about what's happening, events, that kind of thing. I mean, we as a team kind of work to put these presentations together and decide like what the information is. And as a team, we look strategically across the state, like where are the areas that we need to go to have these conversations and to do these presentations, and so I do a lot of the delivery of the presentations and getting feedback from the community of like, what do you want to hear more about? What things do you already know, and what things do you want to know more about?